Hello, I'm Bob Schieffer, and welcome to the CBS Evening News online edition. Just ahead, cries for help. CBS News has been given exclusive access to 911 tapes recorded when the hurricane first hit. Byron Pitts will have that story. Also, embattled FEMA Director Mike Brown has resigned. We'll have details, and we'll begin our series Crisis Check with a look at why FEMA called in hundreds of firefighters and never used many of them. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News online edition. President Bush went back to New Orleans today, but he didn't find much good news. There was more trouble with one of the levees, and authorities confirmed a grim discovery, the bodies of 45 patients in a hospital that was thought to have been evacuated. Byron Pitts is in New Orleans again tonight with more on that, and he has obtained some 911 tapes that give us a much better picture of how it was in the opening hours of this disaster.
Once again today, the Crescent City seemed cursed. Late this afternoon, a levee in northeast New Orleans broke, flooding some neighborhoods all over again. Hours earlier, President Bush was in town, managing his own political crisis. This marked the president's third trip to the city, his first actual on-the-ground survey of the devastation. But if he was hoping to reach out to the citizens of New Orleans, he was too late, since most of the victims are out of town, evacuated days ago. When asked if race played a role in his response, the president had a stern answer.
My attitude is this: the storm didn't discriminate, and neither will the recovery effort.
Today in New Orleans, the recovery of the dead is well underway. 45 bodies discovered inside a local hospital Sunday. But it is the haunting voices of the living that still send shivers down the spines of the women who heard them.
I can feel them people saying, "Miss, please, Miss, please send me somebody."
CBS News was given exclusive access to the 911 calls of those first horrifying hours and to the women who answered them.
So I'm going to die. The water is steady rising in the attic, ma'am. And I'm going to drown in the attic.
I'm inside the location with you.
I'm in here. I got a handicapped girl, and I got a baby that's on a pump machine. And we in the bed. He's on a ventilator, but he's in the bed. Our water is coming up.
We were their lifeline. A lot of them felt if we stayed on that phone to talk to them, they would survive.
It is still unknown how many of these callers survived. There is one Livette Joseph says she will always remember.
People were screaming on the phone.
Yes, screaming for their life, dear life, panic, like people holding their babies, like I'm holding my baby, trying to save the baby, and the mother is going down, and the baby, they're holding the baby over their head.
Police discovered later that woman and her children drowned. And there was this call from a man trapped in an attic, water up to his chin.
Bubbles as he was trying to talk, because he was just going under.
The day this crisis started, New Orleans had more than 100 911 dispatchers. Tonight, just 15. They are holding on, but barely. Bob?
Byron, I want to go back to those bodies that were recovered in that hospital. Now, these were elderly people. This hospital was thought to have been evacuated, and then the water goes down and they find 45 dead patients there. How did that happen?
Well, Bob, the hospital's position now is that most of those patients, as you said, were elderly and died of natural causes during the evacuation. But, of course, the medical examiner will make the final determination.
But if that's the case, then they just died and they just left them there, I guess, and swam to higher ground, as it were.
Bob, it would seem that way. Remember, in that situation, the living were struggling to take care of themselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Byron. On Friday, after enduring intense criticism for most of the week, Michael Brown, the head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, was stripped of all responsibility for the recovery effort along the coast and told to return to Washington. Well, today, Brown finally took the hint and resigned. Jim Stewart now with the story on that.
Rarely has a White House favorite fallen so far, so fast. Little more than a week ago, FEMA Director Mike Brown was lavished with praise for his job on Hurricane Katrina. The president even called him by nickname.
And Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job.
But a week later, Brown had been replaced
help us, somebody rescue us.
the president was facing an avalanche of personal criticism. He had responded too slowly to the crisis. And today, Brown took a political bullet for the White House with a short resignation announcement. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve this president and to work shoulder to shoulder with the hard-working men and women of FEMA, the statement read.
This is the one.
In New Orleans, on his third visit to the disaster site, President Bush claimed not to know anything of the resignation and bristled when asked if he felt Brown and FEMA had let him down.
Look, there'll be plenty of time to play the blame game. That's what you're trying to do.
No,
You're trying to say somebody is at fault.
Brown, who appeared to inherit his FEMA job from the man who had previously run President Bush's campaign, had been criticized over his lack of experience for the job and for hiring people with even less. The White House quickly picked a replacement, naming former Dade County, Florida Fire Chief R. David Paulison, who served during Hurricane Andrew, as the new head of FEMA. Administration officials say Brown had been preparing to leave his post anyway after the end of the hurricane season. But what seems a very good bet now, Bob, though, is that he won't be the last to leave.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. The Secretary of Commerce called on private companies today to invest in rebuilding the Katrina disaster zone. It's going to take tens of billions of your tax dollars as well. So tonight we begin a special series, Crisis Check. We sent CBS News investigative correspondent Cheryl Atkinson to the Gulf Coast to see how our money is being spent.
In the crisis after Katrina, an all-call went out to fire stations around the country. Send anyone you can spare for 30 days. FEMA will cover the costs.
I'm 15 days straight now. I haven't had a break.
Hundreds answered the call, and New Orleans Chief Charles Parent told us they're relieving his stressed force.
This would be the Illinois section.
But not all of the firefighters have made it to New Orleans. Many got stuck in what they say is a wasteful, bureaucratic limbo.
And they just told us to bring a pack and pack for 30 days.
Billy Whitson and Noel Saldivar are from Richardson, Texas. On September 1st, FEMA flew them from Dallas to Atlanta, where they and hundreds of other firefighters tackled paperwork. On day 2, they sat through FEMA classes on diversity and sexual harassment. On day 3, Whitson and Saldivar were finally tapped for a special ops mission to New Orleans. It wasn't what they hoped for.
We were being sent to New Orleans to be nothing more than a backdrop for a press conference that was going to take place with President Bush and Michael Brown.
But they missed the news conference and spent the next 3 days helplessly watching others perform rescues with no assignment of their own. When they complained on day 6, FEMA sent them home.
You have hundreds of firefighters sitting there and just basically talking about how we would like to help and how we're not going to be able to.
Others from Saldivar and Whitson's squad aren't fighting fires either. From Atlanta, FEMA flew them to Arkansas, where they say they've been sitting for 9 days now with little to do. Thousands are thought to be in the same predicament. FEMA apparently never intended to send them into the destruction zone. They were slated for community relations, like handing out pamphlets to evacuees.
This is their disaster area. This is where the people are needed.
And as much as they want to help out, New Orleans Chief Parent says he can't house any more than the 800 firefighters already here. If a lot of firefighters are waiting thinking they may be imminently needed here, it's just not the case.
No, it's not the case in New Orleans now.
FEMA wouldn't talk to us, but on their website they explained they mobilized firefighters to do community outreach because they wouldn't have to put them through background checks and they needed help fast. They put 4,000 firefighters on the payroll and now admit they don't need any more help. Bob?
Well, I can understand why they don't want to talk to you. Cheryl, do you have any idea how much this has cost?
Since FEMA wouldn't talk to us, we couldn't get an official figure, but we're talking hotel, flights, food, and rental cars for those 4,000 people, so it's easy to think that money goes into hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
I think it's more. Thank you very much, Cheryl.